Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Turkey. Joining us from Manhattan, New York tonight to talk about what's widely known as the Zarrab trial involving the Iranian-Turkish businessman and gold trader Reza Zarrab is Yurter Özcan, who is the main opposition Republican People Party, CHP's United States representative. Good evening, Mr. Özcan. Welcome to This Week in Turkey.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
So thank you very much for joining us today in the middle of Zarrab's testimony, actually. Can you start by telling us what are some of the key points that have been talked about today in the session?
Yes, so today, as you know, is the third day of Reza Zarrab's testimony. What makes today is a little bit even more interesting is, as you know, the first day he actually went through I should say the prosecution went through some transcripts of calls that he made with some other people. Yesterday we heard two pieces of audio, but today we heard both the audio of a number of phone calls as well as we read the transcripts. And before each recording, he was asked by the prosecution whether he remembers that phone conversation, whether he can verify that it was him on the phone, and then they asked some additional questions, some clarification as to what they were up to when they were making this phone call. Today, I think what made today more interesting was, as you know, because it's such a complex organization that they made, he kept drawing on, additional stuff on the board that he started 2 days ago. So he gave more details about some companies. Today he elaborated more on what they were doing after the loophole about gold trade, gold for oil was stopped. So he started explaining in detail some of the phony companies that they established, companies that look like that did food import-export, but in fact they didn't do any trade. They were just a pretext to move money around the world.
Mr. Özcan, can you describe the overall appearance and behavior of Reza Zarrab in the courtroom?
Look, I've been following this case since he got arrested in March 2016, so that's a little over 17 months. Since the last time he appeared in court until this week, which gives about 5 to 6 weeks in between, I could tell that he actually put on some weight because, as he spent a little over a year and a half in jail, he had lost a lot of weight, Reza Zarrab, and he was very nervous in the pre-hearings and pre-trial conferences that took place in New York. But starting this week, when he took the stand as a witness in this case, he seems very relaxed. The first day he had put on a uniform for people who are in jail, but as of yesterday and today, the judge allowed him to wear a suit. So he's wearing a suit without a tie. He shaved, so he's very relaxed. I think he kind of missed being in the spotlight during his time in jail. So it looks like he's actually, I wouldn't say he's enjoying himself, but he's very comfortable with all the things that he's explaining in court yesterday and today, because my background is finance, international finance, and the stuff that he's explaining is very complex. And because he's the guy who put it together, the whole scheme and the whole system, he's very comfortable explaining it, why he gave certain orders, why he established certain companies, etc. So he seems in his element very much.
And what do you think the implications of Reza Zarrab's testimony will be both for Turkey and Turkey's relations with the U.S.? In other words, what's next, in your opinion?
Look, I think the true risk spot for Turkey is, the possible involvement of certain public banks in this whole organization, right? So Halkbank is under threat. There are some other banks that have been named by him as he was, moving money around the world. I actually expect a lot of friction in Turkish-U.S. relations, especially after there's a decision by the court. Because if you look at similar cases in the past, it's actually not the court, the federal court, but it's actually the Department of Treasury that actually does decide on the fines and punishments for certain banks. So I think after the court's decision, whatever the decision they come up with, it's going to be Department of Treasury in Washington that may decide on some restrictions or some fines for Turkish public banks, and I actually see that as a big risk for Turkey.
Mr. Özcan, we're aware you left the courtroom just to be with us for a few minutes, so we won't keep you on the line for too long. Thank you very much for joining us tonight and for your comments.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody's well. Thank you.
We'll continue with our next news video, which highlights the main actors and key events in the Zarrab trial.
The international corruption case, widely associated with the Iranian-Turkish businessman Reza Zarrab, started on Wednesday. Mehmet Hakan Atilla, a deputy chief executive officer at the state-owned Halkbank, is accused of conspiring with Zarrab to launder money and funnel Iranian funds through the US financial system. Reza Zarrab, who was expected to be a key defendant along with Hakan Atilla, was arrested in March 2016 on charge that he helped bank executives and others in Turkey to help Iran launder hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions that went through the US financial system. However, Zarrab stopped appearing in court a number of weeks ago, prompting speculation that he would cut a deal and was cooperating with the US officials. Ahead of the hearing, US District Judge Richard Berman questioned Assistant US Attorney Sağda about who will attend the hearing as a witness. Kamaraju reportedly responded that Zarrab was pleading guilty and would be brought to the court as a witness against Atilla. At the opening statement on Wednesday morning, the Assistant US Attorney David William Denton Jr. told the jurors that Atilla and his lies played a crucial role in giving Iran access to US dollars and US banks. Iran did not need soldiers, Iran needed a banker. Denton added that Atilla and other plotters used elaborate transactions to fool the US government. They covered up their lies with millions of dollars of bribes to the highest level officials of the Turkish government. However, Hakan Atilla's attorney, Victor Rocco, denied the accusations, claiming that the case was really about Zarrab's crimes. Rocco told the jurors that Zarrab made a deal to get out of jail, possibly joining the US Witness Protection Program, so he and his family can live in the United States. Rocco then pointed the finger at Süleyman Aslan, the former general manager of Halkbank, who was also charged by the US. There is no evidence that Hakan Atilla was ever bribed, Rocco said. Not a scintilla, unlike Süleyman Aslan, who was paid millions of dollars in bribes.
Reza Zarrab took the stand to bear testimony for a third day today. The hearing, which is ongoing right now, will end at 2 p.m. local time.
Turkish-Iranian businessman Reza Zarrab is the US government's key witness in the prosecution of Mehmet Hakan Atilla, a deputy chief executive officer at state-run Halkbank, who is accused of conspiring with Zarrab to launder money and funnel Iranian funds through the US financial system. Zarrab, who has pleaded guilty after being charged with Atilla, took the witness stand in the trial. The court records unsealed on Tuesday show Zarrab pleaded guilty on October 26th to all 6 original charges against him, including conspiracy, sanctions violations, bank fraud, and money laundering. Reza Zarrab began to bear testimony to the court on Wednesday. In his first day of testimony under oath, Zarrab detailed the origins of a complex sanctions-busting operation to move Iranian funds through front companies, forged documents, and bribes. He got help, he said, from the man who was then Turkey's economic minister, Zafer Çağlayan. He said, "I can broker this providing there is a profit share 50-50, Zarrab told the jury. Prosecutors showed the jurors a tidy spreadsheet that Zarrab said was a partial list of bribes he paid to Çağlayan, who is under indictment but not on trial because he is still in Turkey. The numbers were massive: 31 million euros, 4 million US dollars, and 2.4 million Turkish lira. But not all payments were listed, Zarrab said, who estimated that the total he gave Çağlayan was more than $60 million. Zarrab also used markers and a poster board to draw diagrams of how the money laundering scheme worked. On Thursday, Zarrab testified that in 2012, a senior Turkish official told him that Erdogan, the then prime minister, and the second official, the minister of economy, had given orders for the banks to start doing this trade. Zarrab testified that it was Zafer Çağlayan, Turkey's economy minister at the time, who said Mr. Erdogan had directed the two banks, Ziraat Bank and Vakıf Bank, to participate in the scheme. Çağlayan told me that Mr. Prime Minister had given approval for this work, Zarrab said through an interpreter referring to the Iranian trade. Zarrab also said that he had paid additional bribes to the general manager of Halkbank, Süleyman Aslan, whom he described as being critical to the arrangement. Çağlayan and Aslan, who have also been charged in the case, remain at large, prosecutors have said. Zarrab testified that he had never paid a bribe to Atilla, the only defendant in the trial, who was the deputy general manager of Halkbank. On Thursday, Zarrab said that Atilla helped design the gold transactions along with Aslan. Zarrab discussed a 2013 phone call with Atilla about his plan to switch from gold trades to fake food sales. He said Atilla did not understand at the time that no actual food would be sent to Iran and was reluctant to sign off on the plan. Zarrab said Aslan had ordered Atilla to allow the transaction. After 2 days of testimony, Zarrab is continuing to bear his testimony today until midday. He is expected to take the stand again on Monday as the prosecutors are not finished questioning him.
CHP leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu revealed on Tuesday documents linking President Erdogan's close circle to an offshore company in the tax haven Isle of Man.
On Tuesday, main opposition Republican People's Party (CHP) leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu revealed bank documents at his party's parliamentary group meeting, arguing that they indicate multi-million US dollars worth of transactions to an offshore company in the tax haven Isle of Man under the names of Erdogan's close circle, including his relatives and a businessman. Erdogan and the ruling Justice and Development Party (AKP) officials denied Kılıçdaroğlu's comments, urging the main opposition to reveal the source of the documents and to share the original copies with either prosecutors or the press. On the other hand, Erdogan vowed Kılıçdaroğlu would pay the price for his accusations. "It's a party of treason. Kılıçdaroğlu will pay the price for his move," Erdogan said on Thursday. "We have the original documents. This is not the money going out from Turkey. It's money from a share transfer between the partners and it's money that came into Turkey," Erdogan also said. "All the documents he showed are lies," he added. Meanwhile, the Ankara Chief Public Prosecutor's Office on Thursday launched an investigation into CHP's accusations of alleged offshore accounts linked to the relatives of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The prosecution demanded all documents revealed by Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. The war of words between the AKP and CHP intensified today. Deputy CHP leader and spokesman Bülent Tezcan publicized documents purportedly showing money transfers to an offshore company called Bellway from 5 individuals. Erdogan's brother Mustafa Erdogan, his son Ahmet Burak Erdogan, his brother-in-law Ziya İlgen, Burak Erdogan's father-in-law Osman Ketenci, and businessman Mustafa Gündoğan. Two things come to mind: either money laundering or avoiding tax, Tezcan said. In addition, Erdogan and the names accused by the CHP filed a lawsuit against Kılıçdaroğlu over his accusations, demanding 1.5 million Turkish liras in compensation.
The Pentagon announced on Monday that it was reviewing adjustments in arms for the Syrian Kurdish YPG.
In a statement on Monday, the Pentagon announced that it was reviewing adjustments in arms for the Syrian Kurdish YPG, but it stopped short of halting weapons transfers, suggesting such decisions would be based on battlefield requirements. Turkey said on Friday that US President Donald Trump told President Recep Tayyip Erdogan he had issued instructions that weapons should not be provided to the YPG. We are reviewing pending adjustments to the military support provided to our Kurdish partners in as much as the military requirements of our defeat ISIS and stabilization efforts will allow to prevent ISIS from returning, Pentagon spokesman Eric Pahon said, referring to the Islamic State, which US and US-backed forces are battling in Syria. Earlier on Monday, Turkish Deputy Prime Minister Bekir Bozdağ said Friday's call between Trump and Erdogan was a turning point in strained ties between the two countries, but Washington must honor a pledge to stop providing weapons to the Syrian Kurds. The "we will not give weapons" remark from a US president for the first time is important, but it will lose value if it is not implemented. It would be deceiving the world, Bozdağ said.
More than 2,000 women took to the streets in Istanbul on November 25th to mark the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women.
On Saturday, more than 2,000 women staged protests in central Istanbul to mark the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The protesters carried banners denouncing domestic violence and homicide against women on the iconic Istiklal Avenue and played drums and chanted slogans. Women are stronger together. We want an entire life, not small pieces. According to data from womenhomicide.com, 260 women were murdered by their male partners, husbands, or family members last year across Turkey. The Ministry of Family and Social Policies reported that over 80% of women in the country have encountered some kind of physical or psychological violence from a family member, while 1 out of 15 girls has been sexually harassed at least once in her lifetime. I am one of the 15 girls. You are not alone, read some banners holding by the crowds. In addition, women have been sharing their experiences on social media throughout the day about violence and sexual harassment against them under the theme of Say No to Violence Against Women.
Now let's take a look at what's on in Istanbul next week.
Dance punk and art rock band Liars from New York will be in Salon tonight. Although the band sounds young with a fiery energy, its members have actually been making music together for more than 20 years, never shying away from different genres. They have a loyal fanbase since they debuted their first album, which has helped them make it to the best new albums list. They are back in Salon after 7 years as part of the tour for their last album, TFCF. The multi-talented British musician Burada Man, who combines beatbox, hip-hop and comedy together to create unique performances, will be at the Zorlu Performance Art Center studio tomorrow. Darren Foreman, better known by his stage name Birdman, is a British musician, beatboxer and multi-vocalist, born in London. He gained international fame with his videos, which feature unique combinations of beatboxing, hip-hop and comedy. His music frequently contains elements of drum and bass, dubstep, breakbeat, trance, techno and other associated forms of electronic dance music. Yeehaw! Istanbul Modern Cinema presents a selection of brand new films from Germany in the program's 9th edition in partnership with the Goethe Institute. Introducing Özcan's two leading features from contemporary German cinema. This year's program is titled Freedom. The selection is made up of films from different historical periods that are all committed to a theme of freedom. Another recurring theme is borders, both in terms of societal norms and in either as documentaries and in terms of geography. Moreover, this year's selection includes several films about art and artists, either as documentaries or as fictional features. These films invite viewers to think about freedom in terms of artistic production. The films that will be screened this weekend are Freedom, Jan Spekenba's second film, which premiered in Locarno, also giving its name to this year's program, Casting, directed by Nicola Wackerbart, a film that depicts the behind-the-scenes of television films and the delicacies of acting. Romo Karmakar's new documentary, If I Think of Germany at Night, which invites the audience into the world of electronic music.
That's all from This Week in Turkey. Thanks for tuning in and hope to see you again next Friday at 9 p.m. Goodbye.